Okay. Hi, everyone, and super welcome to this, I would call it amazing panel discussion, where we're going to talk on trends and movements within Facebook and Instagram. I'm who's speaking right now. My name is Simon. I'm some kind of host, but doesn't make me worth any more than the others. Just I'm talking now. I'm a short introduction of myself. I'm based in Stockholm, in Sweden. I'm partner at agency called Engager. We focus on Facebook and Instagram, meaning Meta. We are close to 90 people, and we have a lot of fun. Yeah, who wants to introduce himself?
Ladies first.
Okay, I'll start. Hi, I'm Sarah. I've been doing Facebook ad for nearly 10 years. So when Facebook Pixel didn't exist, I have clients like Hootsuite, Adespresso. I've done work for ClickFunnels and Strategizer. My biggest success would be Strategizer, where they used to make 40 cents for each $1 they spent on ad. I moved them to 18. I wrote for Adweek, Adespresso, Hootsuite, Copy Hacker, Copywriter, Club, Agora Pulse, etc., etc. And now I pass the microphone to somebody else.
Phil, you want to go?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I woke up with you today. I was your keynote this morning, and I'm back after a little bit of a nap. I'm out in Florida, so really, you've messed with my sleeping schedule, but it's okay because this conference is going very well. I'm a brand strategist, so I work with people and companies positioning, building, and promoting their brands. I would say I'm not so much a futurist. I definitely live in the now when it comes to strategies on Facebook and Instagram. I know those are the platforms we're focused on today, and I'm excited to learn from this amazing panel. I'm happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Alexander. I run a brand purpose agency, Way Boutique, here in London, UK. I wrote a book called Not Another Pair of Shoes. It's all about brand purpose. And my purpose is really to help people that have passion communicate and articulate their purpose within their company and to their potential clients.
Cool. What a gang. This is the crew you want to listen to. We are going to cover a broad different topics, which I think will be relevant for most of you listening. And I hope that you'll be able to take some inspiration, maybe some enablers with you today. And the world is obviously a changing place. I mean, it's always been, and the digital marketing landscape is so as well. But what I personally, I think many with me have experienced over the last year or years is that, yeah, also other things matter. It's not just about making money and so forth. You need to stand out and kind of have a purpose, as Alex was talking about. So the first topic that I want to bring up is the importance or the value of having a purpose-driven brand on Facebook and Instagram and what the role is. Because just short comment in my previous keynote on this session, in this conference, one of the key elements I spoke about was trust. Like for a brand, you also need to build trust with the audience. And you can do that emotionally, but also rational. So I think that it's a very interesting topic. And I know, Alex, you know a lot about this. So maybe can you dig into this and give us some of your best insights?
Yeah, I mean, we can go Facebook and Instagram. They're very important, but I think it just goes beyond Facebook and Instagram. They're two platforms. I think the most important thing, as you mentioned, is to have a brand purpose, but not a purpose that's trendy right now, because today, sustainability is trending. So yeah, we believe in that, but next year something else. I believe that brands need to focus on finding their okay, this is what we believe, this is what we stand for. And we are not changing in the next 5 years because we want to make this change happen. And ideally, the change they want to make happen won't happen in their lifetime. It has to be bigger than themselves. It has to be something that's not so easily done within the next month. That's and we see that trend in so many brands, huge brands. They advertise, oh, we believe in equality when in February or in June, but they don't really believe in that. So I believe it's important to create a brand purpose that the brand truly believes and the team members are on board, and then communicating that on Facebook, Instagram, creating content about that, supporting the cause that they tell that they believe, and it goes just beyond Facebook and Instagram.
You know, I totally agree. I mean, Facebook and Instagram are just two outlets in this sense. It's about finding a higher purpose, but also in order to actually reach your clients or your audience or your context with your purpose, you need to communicate somewhere, and Facebook and Instagram are two channels for that.
Mm.
Sarah, what are your thoughts? You work with a lot of big brands and a lot of interesting stuff. Any thoughts?
I tell people to forget it's Facebook, forget it's Instagram, forget it's LinkedIn. Imagine you're in a coffee shop, the person is reading a book and you're interrupting them. How is what you're saying going to achieve your goal, either business or non-business? And most brand is, hey, your hero name is the name of your drink plus the color of your underwear. Nobody's going to say, oh, you sell probiotic, how can it help you? Or it's like brand who say, we support women, Happy Women Day, and then they're paying women like hour to grow coffee cups. So if you imagine you have a human being in front of you and you have a goal and you ask, I'm interrupting that person drinking a coffee, is what I'm going to say helping me achieve my goal or not, and not just the clickbait for the sake of engagement for the sake of engagement.
And Phil, in the States, how are things going there with the purpose? Do you guys have a purpose?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. And by the way, I'm Canadian, so I'm based in the US,
sorry.
but I don't. No, don't worry. I'm not offended by that. I sound American, so I'm never actually offended by that. But I wanted to say,
I remember when I was backpacking when I was 20 years ago. All the Canadians, they had Canadian flags on their backpacks because they didn't want to be seen as Americans.
That is a little trick we do. But no, I'm long gone. I've been here for 10 years. So I was just going to say it's interesting because it's funny you bring up the US right away, because I think in certain contexts or discussions, we look to what's happening in the US to lead some of the trend setting on some of that. But guess what? In this case, I actually don't think it's America or is any particular country or market that sets the trends on this. I love actually what Alexander and Sarah said on this. I think we look to young people. The best market research I can do on social media or the state of all of this is talking to a 13 or a 14-year-old. And to echo both of their sentiments, I'm pointing at you because in my screen, I see both of you this way. So it's like a little, I'm pointing at you guys in case you wonder what I'm doing. We need to talk to a 13-year-old and figure out what trends are they setting that the rest of us are going to follow moving forward. To Sarah's point, like if you're going to be interrupted in your coffee, the interruption better be worthwhile. It better not be lip service, because 13-year-olds right now are pissed off more by lip service or this idea of saying something and doing something else that has the potential to backfire so quickly in a very negative way. So to Alexander's point, it can't be a quick cause that we're going to solve in a month or two. This needs to be something that you're forecasting for the long haul, and you need to actually be doing. Your actions need to mirror what you're saying. To circle back on this, in the US, we've seen this more recently with politics. I don't follow it super closely, but I love when it gets juicy and a company is saying equality for women and there's a wage gap, or they're saying, they're making all these bold statements, and then it comes out on a platform like TikTok that, wait a second, this brand says that they do this, but they actually do this. Fact. That can squash any kind of advocacy or any kind of purpose driven if the numbers don't add up. So I think brands have to be very careful.
Yeah, no, very much agree. And as we've been stating here, I mean, it shouldn't be a trend to think about a purpose, but I think over the last few years, it's been a trend to talk about it and like communicate about it more, at least more than I've been used to. in Scandinavia, where I'm based, I mean, we talk about the climate. So everyone is a green company and yada yada. And from your experience, Alexander, can it be? What are the risks involved in this? Because everyone wants to have a purpose today. You touched upon some, but like when it comes to communication, what should we pay attention to?
What do you mean? How should companies find their purpose, or how should they communicate?
Yeah, communicate. I mean, if let's assume that they have a purpose or have developed a purpose, how should they communicate it without? What should they think about? What are the pitfalls? What can go wrong?
They should, well, obviously use social. It's such a great. We have this opportunity. We have social media. We have email marketing. I mean, the channel doesn't really, in my opinion, doesn't really matter if it's Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. It's how they communicate, and the goal is they should always position the customer as the hero. So their purpose shouldn't be about themselves, because so many times I see we have a purpose, but then when I ask them about the purpose, they're like, yeah, it's all about me. Well, it shouldn't be about you. You're not the hero in this story. You should become the bridge, as I say. Something that Phil mentioned this morning, which was really good. He said you can't have a house without a roof. You can't build a house without a roof, the foundation. So what I say always is like you have to have a good foundation, because a lot of companies, they build the house, they have a nice interior design, but there's no roof, because they don't really believe in that. And Sarah said it as well previously, like, yeah, we believe in equality, and then you don't, like, there's so many things. So I believe in how companies should communicate is go back and figure things internally first, rather than just going, let's post on social media. Because once you have your brand purpose, which aligns through the whole team, then you can create a content strategy and communicate, create interviews, do podcasts, there's so many things, and then do micro content, and that's the distribution part. But so many times brands, they focus, let's do content, okay, brand purpose, okay, let's post this. Well, no, you should stop and think about your foundation. Like, what do you truly believe? Not just, we have so many causes, like in the past years, Black Lives Matter, and you see all these logos, they go black and white, we believe in that, and then 3 months later it's like, we believe in something else. It's like, really? And I worked with companies that said, we are changing our logo to LBTQ. I think I'm right, I don't know. So they changed the color, but internally I knew that they didn't really believe that. So yeah, I think you have to be aligned.
And I think what you say, I mean, at least the way I interpret here, it's very much about culture in an organization. I mean, if you don't have a culture that aligns with the message, then it's going to be tricky, because then you have to pretend to be someone else when you write your communication. But Sarah, you work with a lot of big companies and have worked in the past as well. What is your experience when you discuss these kind of things that might not be sales-driven activities, more of like branding? How are they perceived?
I mostly do ads, so I have clients like Hootsuite, but I'm part of the Facebook ad specialist team, which means I understand organic social media communication, etc. But I don't communicate with them in that regard. I just see what people are doing, but if it's not ad, I'm like, talk to somebody else.
That's okay. You're a helpful person to have in everyone else's orbit. I'm like, oh, I need to be friends with her. That's a useful skill set.
Yeah.
Certainly, but I think this shouldn't be a trending topic. Instead, it should be like a hygiene factor in organizations. But unfortunately, it isn't today. But I think that's why it's great that you exist, Alexander, so you can actually bring this to people's attention. The topic of today is based around Facebook and Instagram, which is very vast. But and we talked about TikTok. We mentioned it. I mean, that's a big upcomer. And I don't know if you saw, but earlier this year, Meta's the share fell with 26% because the daily active users didn't increase. $10,000 question: what is the future of the Facebook platform? What is the future of Facebook? I guess, I mean, obviously no one knows, but from my perspective, I think at least, I mean, it's going to be around for a while. As always, you will change the way people work with it and how they utilize it. And I think that will require a bit more monitoring from people working with it, because you need to understand, okay, what are the actual changes? What does this mean? Because from my perspective, again, all the releases of functions happen on Instagram. On Facebook, they don't really do anything. It's like this just exists. And but still, I mean, it's a platform everyone goes to, so it's hard to not recommend people. It functions. I mean, I'm sure, Sarah, you can vouch for that. But my take on this is that it will remain for quite some time. It will change, and Instagram is going to be like the growth machine. And obviously, in many markets, I know that Instagram has more monthly active users than Facebook has, at least in the Western world. So it is indeed very, very popular. And maybe we shouldn't see it as a platform, but as an infrastructure where we like host our information and so forth. Very big question. Over to Florida. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think certainly, but I'm not as optimistic as you when it comes to the future of these platforms. I think every day that passes, and by the way, there's no right or wrong answer on this. It's kind of interesting to hear different takes on this. But to go back to my my market research tool, talk to a 13-year-old, they don't like Facebook, they don't like Instagram, and every day that passes, those platforms become more corporate and more ick. And I think those platforms, to your point, it's even weird to call it a platform, but a place where data and information is housed. I think it doesn't have the same appeal or evergreenness that platforms like YouTube have. I think Facebook and Instagram are in trouble. I think Facebook, especially as the generation gets older, it's just not cool, and it's just not relevant like it once was. Instagram is headed in the absolute same direction. I heard someone say yesterday there was a screenshot of Instagram when it was just like and comment, no share, no save, all of these other, and this person said, younger than me, this person said, oh, look at that. That's when Instagram was cool. We were watching the Anna Delvey TV series on Netflix, and they put a screenshot from 10 years ago or 15 years ago. And he said, look, that's when Instagram was cool. And I thought, oh, that's interesting, because Instagram is not cool anymore. And Facebook is like what your grandparents use. It is so not cool. Not to say there aren't merits here to be used for ads as a platform for advertising. It's still obviously a leader, but I'm less optimistic in its future because I think it's become too corporate. And when we look at platforms like TikTok that have seen such a surge in use and loyalty and culture, we've been talking about culture. The culture on TikTok is so much better than on platforms like Instagram. Not necessarily their fault, but that's kind of where it's at.
If you go to the App Store, check Facebook app, they have a more one-star review than any other review. You go to Google Play, they're having a lot of one-star review. You read it, people say, hey, I was on the marketplace, I tried to buy something, I got scammed, Facebook support, 0. It's like Facebook are trying to do many things. They're trying to do hardware, metaverse, so they're trying to compete with TikTok. Instead of, it's like a hotel. They say, oh, what school is having a coffee machine in the lobby, and people are complaining that the towels are not clean, that they don't have enough toilet paper, that there is noise. Let me give you few examples. I was in a group, and some people are spamming it by putting video of bestiality porn. So I reported it. Facebook, they reply, we saw nothing wrong. That doesn't go against our guidelines. So basically, they're outsourcing things like moderation to people who are abused, overworked, underpaid, and they're told you need to go through 1,000 requests per day. How are they going to do? And that's a company that make over $100 billion in revenue. So the person will give 1 second to everything, or copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. Another example is from ad, but it's also true for organic, because you would post something and Facebook say you go to the jail for 30 days. I had a client, she is a naturopath. She helped people with insomnia, adrenal fatigue, and the ad got banned. They say it's about X-rated. And I'm like, how is insomnia X-rated? Do people on Facebook get turned on by having red eye and sleep deprivation by 5 days?
Some people probably do.
Who knows? I mean, to each their own. Who am I to judge? The other one is Photoshop template where you put butterfly, bubbles, etc. And Facebook sent me an email. They say, you're promoting political propaganda, you're influencing election, stop. And I had to go to Facebook support, and I'm like, in your country, do politicians talk about Photoshop during elections? And Facebook is like, oh, we're protecting democracy, end of discussion. And because of that, they're trying to copy Reel, they're copying TikTok, focusing on video, and they're not focusing on something that is broken. I mean, I know advertisers that spend $500,000, they cannot talk to a human, or it's copy paste. You go to their hardware portal. I made that test, like trying to troll them. You could get to speak to somebody within 30 seconds. I'm like, would Portal help me make delicious pizza? They say it's a hardware. I'm like, yes, but can I find somebody to teach me to make Italian pizza in Italy? They say, yes. Can you tell me where I could find such a teacher? And they even send me links from YouTube. And it's a hardware that costs $200. You need to produce it, ship it.
Wow.
And if you spend 500,000, you cannot even speak to a human. So I think maybe 5 years from now, Facebook will still exist, but nowhere is going to be the #1 social media. Maybe they're going to have 5 times less user, because everyone who used to be very passionate about them they're pissing everyone basically at the end of the day and making no one happy.
But still, they have some kind of monopoly situation, at least in the Western world. I mean, which makes people still spend ad money on them, and when they create revenue. So it's a bit strange. It's a strange setup, and what is also not fascinating, more scary, is that a lot of people, or organizations and companies, they are depending on the sales through Instagram and Facebook. And as with your example, Sarah, if they can't get that attention, then it's super scary. I mean, if the page get blocked or something, and maybe they can't pay rent or whatever. And we saw that, interesting side note here, but TikTok was establishing themselves here in the Nordics, and they did like the opposite way around. They hired so many people. I have the phone numbers, like 5 people in the office. It's super. I mean, they saw what Meta did, and they said, okay, let's do it differently. That way we can win traction. So smart play from them, but it also points out the faults that we've been discussing here earlier. Alexander, what are your thoughts or 5 cents?
My 5 cents. I mean, for any Facebook, obviously it's old. Like Phil said, it's like grandmothers, parents are there. I just think the mentality of Facebook is a bit different. Mostly it's groups and friends. So from content perspective, content on Facebook doesn't work as well as on Instagram, because Instagram is more open. But yeah, Facebook, I don't know if it will disappear or not, but my mentality is like, whatever comes, you have to learn and adapt. If they disappear, I don't think anybody will be crying, because we can see, obviously, TikTok is evolving. Instagram is evolving. Obviously, Instagram is a different product. I think they're more like, I prefer Instagram than Facebook, but I know that people use Facebook for different reasons. I'm going to go to that group because it's a private group. My mom is there, my grandma is there. So if I need to message, for example, my parents, you'll go on Facebook. But regardless of what happens, I think that Facebook will buy a platform that's emerging. Well, they try to buy TikTok. If we have, let's say, in the next year, a new platform, I think they'll just buy it and replace it with Facebook. But I don't think anyone is really excited about Facebook as TikTok. But my mentality is just whatever new platforms we have, learn, adapt, just crack on. But human behavior will never change. How we behave, emotional connection, how we react to stuff. So in terms of like content wise, just think that we're all humans, but the platform is the delivery, so you have to change that. So that's my take.
No, very true. And it's been quite some years. I mean, Sarah, you said you've been working with TikTok, so Facebook for 10 years. I mean, in the digital marketing era, that's a very long time. And Facebook has been not fortunate, but lucky enough that no one has really challenged them. I mean, you had Clubhouse coming along, Twitter trying in a few countries, and so, but they had like this kind of monopoly. And now, as TikTok emerges, for the first time ever, it's like a big threat. And I don't know, it's a bit too late for them to act on that threat, but it's also an interesting question, like, can something that big die or like just disappear? But most likely, like you say, Alexander, I mean, make a pivot somehow or buy something else. And but man, with 3 billion users, I mean, it's so many people.
I think they're becoming more like MySpace, but I think they'll, because of the money that they have, and if you look at their mentality, they have a Microsoft mentality, support, like Sarah mentioned. It's like, it's a nightmare. It's like, it's the same mentality as Microsoft has versus Apple, where Apple, yeah, you need help, come to any Apple store and we'll solve it. But yeah, I think there's a percentage that Microsoft owns it, so it makes sense that the culture is the same.
Yeah, maybe it's obviously hard to predict the future, but I mean, we are it's like straight recommendations, but that is because there are none. I mean, it's about trying to figure out your own way. Like, okay, what we say, does it make value for you? Yeah, pick those things and then try to adapt. As Alexander was very wisely pointing out, I mean, it's all about trying to understand, and then adapting according to these sessions. And nothing will change today or tomorrow, but it's about playing the long game. Like, yeah, 5 years from now, where do we want to be as an organization? Do we want to be locked into something, or should we be more open? Or if you feel like we're losing track, but since there is no track, there's nothing to lose. Good. So the future of Facebook is it's kind of hard to predict, and we'll see, as we talked about here. One thing that digital marketing has been very much about has been ads, and the ability to point ads directly, personalize, and so forth. Or we say that we personalize, pinpointing. And the reason why we've been able to do that is because we have been tracking people. I think most people are aware of that. And we have, at least to my sense and my understanding, we have gotten too spoiled with data. We have too much data. So companies, advertisers haven't even asked, what is the reason why we try to gather this data? It's just that there is, so let's get it. Like my kids going into a candy store, they don't value the candy, they just take the candy. And I think the same has been with the data. And we've seen over the last few years with GDPR here in Europe, and Data Shield, and now iOS 14.5, which you most likely have heard about, which also kind of messes up the way we're used to track. And Google is eliminating the third-party cookie. So we have a whole, I would say, a perfect storm where there are like legislators, users are not so eager to leave data anymore, and also platforms self-regulating. Yeah, the big question is, how do brands, agencies, today, from your experience, what on tracking and measurement?
There is an episode of Will and Grace where Grace went in Italy. She had too much fun. She came back to New York and she was pregnant. And then Karen is like, who is the father? There are 5 people in the room. Let's make a paternity test. And I think a lot of people, because they rely on cookies, have been doing that. When I started doing Facebook, there was no pixel. So what I do, I would tag the email. I seen Facebook as just send people somewhere, get their email, and tag them as coming from email. I would not send people from Google, from YouTube, from Facebook, from organic to the same landing page, because I want to be able to say this person came from Facebook, this is their behavior. Somebody coming from shares where they're actively looking for a solution, they're not going to act and behave the same way as somebody you interrupt on Facebook. So you want to be able, when you have sales or conversion or sale call or whatever, to say, thus are all the people who took the action I want to go. Let me compare them with the email lists that come from Facebook, that come from Google, that come from organic SEO, etc. And this way you're able to tell what's working better, because you know what, even with the cookie, I could be on my desktop, I click on an ad, I do nothing, I open my phone, I don't have Facebook app on my phone, I would never have Facebook app on my phone, I click on my email, I buy, and the cookie cannot match it, but the email can. So for me, I think it's email, and then you would need mathematics or being good at statistic, where you say, hey, I'm advertising in Boston and London, but I stop advertising in Paris and in Milan, and I notice that my sales are growing faster in those two cities. So it's basically doing something like, what effect that is doing.
So more like not gut feeling, but closer to that, or if I understand it correctly, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that and I totally agree with you on that. But I think what's going to be challenging for many is because we have gotten so accustomed to having all this data and trying to find like the perfect KPI that is just a number that no one actually doesn't really exist, but it's like this is the KPI. And I think that mindset many needs to shift away from, and especially, I mean, we run an agency and we have clients and they want to have an exact number, but we need to, I think everyone in the world working in digital marketing needs like, okay, we need to change mindset. We need to go more into what you said, Sarah. In Florida, do we have any thoughts on the topic?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is certainly not my area of expertise per se, but I still have thoughts on it. It's a bit like a pendulum swinging. So we've gone too far one way, and now people are appreciating what it was like before we swung this far, right? And so it's like we're collecting all this data, but we don't even know why. We're just doing it because we can. And now people are starting to be creeped out by how things follow them all over the internet. How is it that like I can see a Facebook or an Instagram ad for something I haven't even verbalized? Alexa hasn't even heard it. It's just been in my mind, yet it's staring at me on an Instagram. And I think we thought that that's what we wanted. And so we moved in that direction and now we're there and it's kind of freaky. And so now we're seeing this swing back of actually, maybe we should only be collecting or providing a certain amount of data that's going to make my life better instead of creepy. I don't know. I think we're seeing this swing back where people are more reluctant to give their data. People are going to unsubscribe from an email list unless you are really giving more than you're getting from it. We're seeing this swing back on the pendulum, and I'm kind of here for it. I'm kind of here for it because I find the whole thing kind of creepy.
Oh, and I think you're correct. I mean, on all trends, even clothing and interior, and I mean, there's always, let's go back and forth. But it's interesting because actually everything that's happening is based on our as users and as individuals, as you say. I mean, we think it's creepy. So Apple takes a stand saying we're going to be the friendly, we're going to take the user stand and like do iOS 14.5, and this I think relates to what we talked about with you, Alexander, previously with the purpose-driven brands. This is an area that also has become like one of the purposes for brands. Like we're going to be, data friendly, and again, I think if you're going to communicate that, you need to really prove your point. So in London, Alex, what is the sentiment around tracking and measurement?
I mean, as humans, I think everywhere globally, we don't like when companies track us. But from my opinion, it's just, look, if you get an email, if you have data, just provide value to the end consumer. I bought something a couple of weeks ago from a store, and all I got from them was like, I think 6 emails promotional. Of course, I'm going to unsubscribe and delete you and block you and never. But rather than sending me 6 promotional emails, send something of value. And I always say, like, if you stop sending emails or stop posting, will people miss you, right? And a great example was like one of the Seth Godin's emails. I stopped receiving them for a week, and I was like, I didn't receive his email. So I went out of my way to email him and ask, like, so the goal is always to provide value. We have so much data, but I don't see that companies try really hard to provide value. I'm sure that if we provide more value as brands, companies, people won't mind. But if we're just spamming people, of course we're going to be like, I don't want to give you my data. You go and buy a pair of shoes and they ask you, your date of birth, or like I was in Dubai a couple of days ago speaking. I went to Starbucks and they asked me my nationality, the year I was born, my name, from where I am. It's like six questions to get one freaking latte. It's like, it's ridiculous. What are you doing with all those data? I'm sure they're going to spam me later. But that's the problem, because companies, they take all this data and they just spam people without thinking, how can we provide value? Or they say, oh no, we provide value by sending you a happy birthday once a year. It's like, really? All this data for a happy birthday card? Oh, piss off.
Toilet paper company, Happy New Year! Like,
yeah, it's like, so I think it's just, yes, we have data. Don't overuse it, don't abuse it. Send value if you have the emails. Interview, and that goes to content, but I think we just overuse it and abuse it, rather than just thinking, putting the consumer, okay, how can I help you? And then in the end, yes, here's what we sell, but not here's what we sell. Yeah, that's my take.
Can we talk about toilet paper for a second? That's like the perfect example of where brand and storytelling plays a role. So right away, when Sarah says toilet paper, I'm like, well, what could a toilet paper company do to grab my attention? Or why would I want to welcome them into my inbox? To Alexander's point, they'd be giving me something more than what I'm giving them. Like, I need to be receiving more. It needs to be a kind of a friendship or a relationship that's reciprocal in some way. So incorporate some good jokes or some humor into it, and then I might welcome them into my inbox, or give me something interesting. Maybe there's a lifestyle angle on the toilet paper brand. Speaking of toilet papers, it's not quite the same brand or industry, but there's a really funny brand in the US called Tushy. And it's basically, they took the concept that's popular in Asia, specifically Japan, of that thing you put on your toilet that shoots water at you.
Oh yeah,
what's it called? Like a bidet. A bidet. Yes, a bidet. I couldn't remember that word. Only slept 2 hours, guys. Give me a chance. But they've done a really beautiful job of navigating, quite frankly, where why would anyone want to hear from them after you purchase their product? But they have a great brand voice. It's comical. And I still subscribe to their emails because I find it hilarious. I come to expect, like you expect Seth Godin's emails, I come to expect their emails among a handful of some of my favorite brands. And I enjoy what I get from that marketing relationship, because it feels like I'm getting and not just giving. I actually have to give a shout out to Swedish brands. By the way, Stockholm is my favorite city in the world to spend time. Didn't tell you that, but whatever.
Come and hang out any day.
I usually do once a year. Prior to all of this craziness, I would go and spend every September there. But I think Swedish brands in particular, I would say Nordic brands in general, are really, really good at navigating this. My favorite brand in the universe is Philippe K, the clothing store. I think everything I own is from there. So whenever I go to Sweden, I stock up in my suitcase. But again, that's a relationship that I maintain from afar. I think there are brands who do this really well, and there are brands who do this abysmally, and we can all laugh at them.
Yeah, I'll add just to Phil's case study of toilet paper. There's another toilet paper company that I mentioned in my speech previously called Who Gives a Crap? Because somebody asked me a couple of weeks ago, like, who gives a crap about brand purpose? I just want a toilet paper that's £2 and that's it. I said, I'm sure there's some people that give a shit about the toilet paper. So if you look up a company called Who Gives a Crap, like they have a story, they're premium, they donate 50% of their profits, plastic free, all that stuff, and all their content is fun, is interactive. I'm not following them, but I mean on emails, but something as a toilet paper company, they create value, and then you have other companies that sell other products, they can't think of something creative. So yeah. And one of my brands, favorite brands, is the Humble Co. It's in Sweden as well. It's a toothbrush company and toothpaste. They're very like vegan, organic, no plastic. So I agree with Phil about the brands. There are a lot of brands, nice brands in your country.
but it's going to be a bit of a shift for many companies. I mean, especially within e-commerce, if we mention that have been used to using data retargeting, as we discussed, and then instead moving over to this value-based proposition. I totally agree with your with what you're saying, and because I mean, I just need to look to myself. I mean, what kind of brand relationships do I actually remember? What do I talk about? Yes, it is things that surprise me in a positive way, or goes the extra mile. I mean, yes, you've been mentioning here, and that is a challenge for brands because they've been used to just like pushing out ads, selling things, and now they have like, whoa, we need to do it a bit differently. Sarah, with your clients, do you think how do you think that will land? That you might have to rethink their strategies in some sense.
Some of them are big brand, don't do a lot of tracking. If you think about it, I mean, when I started working for AdEspresso and Hootsuite, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to learn how all the big brand do it professionally. And then I look at their ad and I'm like, they're doing it less good than the small guy. That's not a criticism because the CEO of a big company can retire tomorrow, never ever need to work again. Maybe they have 5 holiday home and need to work. But for them, it's, if you think about Starbucks, they have billboard in airport, they have digital advertisement, paper advertisement, everywhere that sometimes they cannot tell where the sale come from. And it's not a big deal because I could see an ad, never click on it, and they tell me they have a new vegan flavor. And if I go to the airport, there is a Starbucks. If I go to the train station, there's a Starbucks. If I go to another city, like next week, I'm going to Brighton to speak at the conference, Brighton CEO, there is a Starbucks. So basically, they look at the revenue, and what matters for them is the real estate. You bet that they have the best lawyer in the world, the best real estate negotiator in the world, and from them, digital marketing is just another thing that they do because the star is the product. It's not how you market it. If you have an amazing product, it's way easier to market it.
Yeah, very very true. And I mean, we should all remember that companies managed to exist and make a profit prior to Facebook arrived. Exactly. It's just as you pointed out very wisely before, Alexander. I mean, these are just one channel. I mean, if they change, we need to adapt. But I mean, business will keep on going. But of course, if you are only an e-commerce and you can't track the same way, it's going to be different. But I think it's also in the right direction, as Phil pointed out. People are getting tired of it, and then you just lose traction with your audience altogether. We're getting to the end of this session. I just want to congratulate myself on being with a room with such a diversity of people, and so very. Before going off, I want to ask you. Yes.
Hi, sorry, Simon. There are questions in the Q&A. I think there are like 6 or 7 questions.
Okay, I missed that.
Or 8, 10, a couple of questions.
I'm super good at talking, but very bad at organizing things. Okay, one question: how can small businesses use TikTok? How can TikTok help your business? Small businesses, I think, my perspective, has a great chance on TikTok because there's still an organic possibility. Watch the trends, try to identify trends and work with them. Advertising is still very, very cheap compared to other platforms. Functionality is not as good as others, but try organic and look at content creators. Any other input on that? I will run this through very fast.
There is a lot of questions.
I would say don't just measure your success by reach on a platform like TikTok. So your success is not contingent on you getting 500,000 views or more on a post. Be a little selfish about it. I honestly think the best thing about TikTok is how it teaches you to be a good short form content creator. So even if you don't generate business in 6 months of being on the platform, you being on that platform is going to make you a much better content creator across the board, creating in that format. And I think that doesn't often get enough credit.
If I could add something, don't think about TikTok, Facebook, email, etc. How could I get business? Because you're going to read a case study how somebody made 100 million or 10 million or 100,000. You're going to do it for 1 month, and then if you're not seeing result, you're going to abandon. Do it because you enjoy giving content. I mean, some of my blog posts, I write it and I get no client from it, and I'm like, not a big deal. I really enjoyed sharing my knowledge and writing it. And actually, Facebook at some point banned me because I wrote a blog post saying they're drama queen with iOS 14. And I still got in 2021, they banned me, like 5 conferences, maybe 6 podcasts inviting me. How they found me, I have absolutely no idea. But if they didn't Google my name and find all those blog posts, they wouldn't. So think about one medium where you're really enjoying it, and just do it consistently by delivering value, and the rest would come if you do it. I mean, it could be email marketing. I mean, if you enjoy writing, email marketing is not going anyway. Do it, but don't do it just because people say email is good, because you're going to do it for 2 weeks and then lose motivation.
Great. Now we actually did run over time, but no problem. We have some questions that are unanswered. Please add me on LinkedIn, Simon Beyer. You can see my name somewhere. Send me the question there. I will answer it over LinkedIn instead. And to Florida, to Sarah, I don't know where you are, but somewhere.
Brussels.
And Brussels, great place. And to Alex in London, thank you very much for tuning in. Great to hang with you guys. See you in Stockholm if you ever drop by. And have a great Thursday it is.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Take care, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Simon.